Anthony, let's talk Woodstock. I'm so excited about this. Woodstock 50th anniversary. I've been talking about it. We've done a previous morning show vlog about it. In that vlog, I said that Michael Lang was losing. I said, if you're just catching up, Michael Lang said in an interview while he was on Long Island, here on Long Island, getting inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, he said, we're going to do a 50th anniversary and concert for Woodstock. Awesome, cool. Next thing I see, 50th anniversary Woodstock concert announced. Those are the headlines on our break. When I actually went in and read the article, I realized, wait a second, this isn't Michael Lang. This is Live Nation. And I thought, Live Nation hijacking that thing. It turns out it's Bethel Woods Performing Arts Center, non-for-profit, in the exact location where the first Woodstock was. They've turned that into a performing arts center location, museum, everything. Very cool. They're trying to do something. How could you argue with that? But essentially, we wound up with two competing. Now we have two 50th anniversary concerts to choose from. And Live Nation hopped on their dates first. When they announced, they said, these are the dates. And then a day later, the story came out from one of the papers upstate that space is already limited during that weekend. And I came on in the vlog and I said, on the show here, I said, Michael Lang, he's got to get his stuff out there. Because if you're first to sail, if you're first to announce, you're going to find yourself behind. That was just a few days ago. And here we are. And Michael Lang has come to the table and put together a formal announcement. And he said a whole ton of stuff. And we're going to get into everything that he said. He's picked a location, first of all, Watkins Glen, site of the big Dead show, Allman Brothers show, right? Summer of 73, Watkins Glen International. They say it had more than Woodstock. It's going to be at Watkins Glen, August 16th, 17th, and 18th of 2019. Is that the same day as the Bethel Woods? I think it's right around the same time. Is it not? Boy, that's going to be insane. If they're doing this in the same weekend. Oh, my goodness. Let me see here. I think it's the same exact weekend. It is. August 16th through the 18th. What's the difference here? No difference. Same weekend. Oh, boy. Could you imagine the traffic? Traffic alone for one of these things is going to be insane. Imagine two now? Jeez. Organizers won't be announcing specific acts until tickets go on sale in February, but Lang says that over 40 performers have been booked already across 3 stages, including some big-name headliners. He says, and I quote, "It'll be an eclectic bill. It'll be hip-hop and rock and some pop and some of the legacy bands from the original festival." He wouldn't delve into specifics, but Lang said that some of the newer bands will stage celebrations of artists from the original Woodstock. A lot of those artists aren't around anymore. I think that sounds like an amazing solution. Could you imagine getting some of the newer bands that are out there that are killing it right now? Your L Kings, your Dawes, your Smiths, Avid Brothers. Imagine getting some of those guys to come in and do a whole set that is song for song. The set that whatever artist that's no longer here. I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine that? That is so much fun to me, That is so much fun to me. Like, imagine like a Michael Kiwanuka coming in and doing Richie Havens' set. Like, that's what it's about. That would be amazing. So that is some of the solutions. Because again, we're wondering like who comes with this and that. I know you're thinking about CSNY. I was too. Michael Lang addressed it. Continuing his point, he says, let's see here. Having newer bands stage celebrations of artists from the original Woodstock that will likely include tribute performances to Janis Joplin, the band, Jefferson Airplane, Joe Cocker, among others. He says, and I quote, having contemporary artists interpret that music will be really interesting and an exciting idea. We're also looking for unique collaborations, maybe some reunions, and a lot of new and up-and-coming talent. So as soon as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, reunions, tell me about Crosby, Stills, and Nash. We'll get there. He says, and I quote, I want it to be multi-generational. Woodstock 94 was a nice mix of young and old, and that's kind of what we're going for here. It's an interesting attempt, and I think he's got a good shot at it because of the brand and where Woodstock is. But when you look at a lot of these festivals, it's a lot of young people, you know? I mean, the easiest way to get older people to go to a show like myself is to give me a chair and put it inside an air-conditioned location. Like that, if you can do that, that's amazing. That's amazing. If you can't do that and it's outside next to smelly people and $10 bottles of water, you know, this is going to be a little harder to get me out there. But anyway, he's conscious of it, and he feels like the acts can bring in that multi-generational feel, so we'll see. Watkins Glen is a far distance from hotels, but Lang promises attendees will have options far superior to the original festival's famously muddy field. He says, and I quote, there will be glamping and stuff like that. There will be those types of experiences in various forms where there's a real bed, there's a chair to sit in, and a light bulb. There will also be easier access to porta potties. That is pretty important. He notes, the jump-in porta potty technology. So that should be a little bit better to look forward to. Sanitation was just one of the many major problems of Woodstock 99, a disastrous event held on the former Air Force Base in Rome, New York, that culminated in fires and riots. It was held on a brutally hot weekend with a few places to find shade. Water was sold. This was interesting. $4 a bottle. Now, I don't know about you, but I pay $5 now at an Islander game for a bottle of water. It felt like it was a lot more expensive at the time. I mean, that was 20 years ago. It was $4. I just remember hearing the price for water going, that's crazy. Now, I think they were selling for more than that because people wound up selling their own stuff for crazy prices. So maybe that's what we were thinking about. And maybe $4 a bottle. It's hard to think now because, again, you're paying $5-6 at Yankee Stadium and stuff like that. But yeah, $4 a bottle. I thought it was a lot higher. But maybe that was how we felt in 99. I can't remember. There was a death resulting of a drug overdose. There was reports of sexual assaults in the mosh pits. Promoters dealt with a wave of lawsuits in the aftermath for a while. It seemed like there would never be another Woodstock. Lang's original Woodstock co-promoter, John Scher, absorbed some of the blame for the fiasco. He is not involved in Woodstock 50. 20 years later, Lang is able to look back at Woodstock 99 and see where things went wrong. He says, and I quote, I shouldn't have left the booking to others. And the water situation was ridiculous. As soon as I saw that, I tried to get everyone to lower the prices, and I couldn't. I did order tractor trailers of water and put them out for free. I do think a lot of people had a good time, but the fires at the end became the imagery of it. It was just about 200 kids who went on a rampage. They exploded some of the cooling systems in the tractor trailers and just wreaked havoc. Lang goes on to dismiss Woodstock 99 as an MTV event, saying that Woodstock 50 will be the antithesis. Woodstock 99, he says, and I quote, was just a musical experience with no social significance. It was just a big party. With this one, we're going back to our roots and our original intent, and this time around, we'll have control of everything. They aren't going back to the original site, as we said. Woodstock and Bethel will have their own festival. He says the difference is that what's going on at Woodstock in Bethel is completely different, that it's a 15,000-seat concert venue. He said they're good stewards of the original site, and they built a beautiful performing arts pavilion, but it's a 15,000-seat shed. That's not a Woodstock, he says. Now, I don't know what the final plans are. Maybe it is just going to be in the Performing Arts Center, but I just assumed that there was going to be more to it, that it was going to be in some of the fields around there in that area. Perhaps I was very mistaken by that. Maybe it's just going to be a 15,000-seater. That could very well be. But when I made my original comments that Michael Lang was losing, you look at it now, that he's going after what could hold potentially 500,000 people. And now Live Nation's got a 15,000 seat thing. Like, who's the big one now? Like, Michael Lang caught up and then some. I still think that whatever Live Nation does, it's going to be in the shadow of this. If this is executed as much as Michael says it's going to be. That, of course, is a little bit of a variable. We don't know that for sure just yet. So who is he talking to? This is what I thought was the most interesting part of the interview. Lang isn't talking about reunions and bands from the original Woodstock. He clamps up when pressed for details. Is there even a slight chance, say, that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young would put aside their differences for a single night? Something I speculated last time we talked about this. He says, and I quote, "I've talked to them all individually, and it's a mess." So, not surprising that it's a mess. We all kind of knew that, but I take hope in the fact that he's already put in the legwork on this. And again, with what's gone on between those four guys, is there anything else on this planet that could bring those four guys together than this festival at this time? I'm not saying that they have a chance to do it, but let's be honest. Aside from that group losing somebody, like somebody dying in their circle, you know what I mean? Somebody massive, that they would all come together to, eulogize or celebrate their life or do a show for, or whatever the case is. Aside from death, basically, what else would put these four guys together on a stage again? I think it's Woodstock 50. I really do. What else is there? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if you're going to get it, here's your chance. This is your crack at it, for sure. Now, that was from the original Rolling Stone magazine article. He spoke with the New York Times and gave a little bit more detail, saying, for Woodstock, 3 main stages will be supplemented by 3 smaller neighborhoods. Mr. Lang described the food and programming. Tickets, Mr. Lang and his team are still working on that, but they're envisioning selling a maximum of around 100,000 3-day passes, with most attendees camping on site. Let's see here. A press release went out saying that a limited number of discounted pre-sale tickets will be available to college students ages 18 to 25 by the end of January. The release notes that the festival grounds will also feature lodging experiences for tents, RVs, vans, and more premium camping options. There will be 3 main stages, and they're promising more than 60 of the biggest names and emerging talent in rock, hip-hop, pop, and country. Let's see here. Some of the speculated names going around. Some of the artists that have been approached, allegedly. Bruce Springsteen, Eminem, Ariana Grande, Coldplay, Fish, The Weeknd, Elton John, Bon Jovi, Pearl Jam, The Foo Fighters, Pink, The Who, Santana, Zac Brown Band, Mumford & Sons, and the Chainsmokers. These are what sources are saying. Take that as you may. Could just be somebody who came up with a list of logical choices of some of the biggest headlining acts out there, which makes a whole bunch of sense. But let's delve into it. We already talked about The Who the other day, and Roger said he hasn't been approached. Now, whether he was approached from 4 days ago till now, who knows? I think you have to have some of these artists to make this significant to today's audiences. Eminem, I think you have to have. Bruce Springsteen, I think you have to have. Fish, I think you have to have. Elton John would be lovely. Lovely to catch him on this farewell run. Let him do Woodstock. I think that would be amazing. Pearl Jam, the Foo Fighters, I think you have to have. Zac Brown Band, I think you have to have. And that's probably not it, because if you want to bring in that country audience, you better, I mean, there are some big country acts. As far as pop goes, delicate situation. It's hard to say. I don't know if Ariana Grande, makes this possible or not. Does Taylor Swift, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not really sure about that kind of a thing. But I know if you're going to get people that want to stand out in the middle of a field in upstate New York in the middle of August, like, you better have some diehard fans. Not to say that Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift don't, but they have a lot of fans. And a lot of the fans that buy their tickets are, 10-year-old girls and boys. They're not, can you bring a 10-year-old kid to this? Maybe you could. I don't know. I don't think I would. I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't bring me to this, okay? Seems like a lot of heat and a lot of open fields and such. So it'll be interesting to see, but no doubt about it, much like speculation for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Bonnaroo and Coachella every single year, it'll be interesting to see who lines up for this. But I think there is appeal for Mumford & Sons, the Avid Brothers, right? There's appeal to have some of these artists there because it's brand, right? This was the one that started it all, I mean, Monterey, but this was the one. This was the culturally significant event of '69 that really sort of capped off that whole decade, really, and started the '70s. And you can't sit here and tell me that doesn't mean something to these artists, because it definitely does. It's brand. Woodstock has a bigger brand. And I will say, to protect said brand, if you're Michael Lang, you have got to have a head and shoulders better lineup than Coachella and Bonnaroo and all these things. Like, you cannot. This thing is going to go off and be a success no matter what. But for legacy, for brand, for culture, you can't just duplicate what Coachella and Bonnaroo and the other ones are doing this year. You really you can't. You can have some of the same artists on there, but, you got to have, like, I'm sitting here thinking about this. If I'm Michael Lang, whatever the cost is, I'm thinking I need to have 3 headliners per night. Like 3. Like, I want to see Bruce Springsteen, Ariana Grande, Bruce Springsteen, Eminem, and the Foo Fighters. Like, that should be what, like, you hit me with 3 massive headliners in one night. Now you're talking. Now you've got an event that everybody's going to be talking about for the next 25 years. It's got to be that big because of the brand, because of the legacy.